good morning to my fellow classmates and Madam Zunor. On today's public speaking, me and my groupmate will explain about education. We will explain briefly regarding education and explain the importance of education, why it should be applied to each and every individuals that is in the country. Also, we will tell you what happens if there is lack of education to the society. To start, based on great people, they define education as ability to think, apply it to the world, and to know the value of life. It also does not limit self-education, but also to spread to all human beings. There is no end in education, as in each and every stage of human life we learn something. This to conclude that education is not only can be used on writing and academics or in college or universities, but it can also be used in a lot of advantages, such as we as a society can utilize the knowledge that we gain for growth of the society like technologies, education systems, and a lot more. Education is the most powerful weapon nowadays that we can use to change the world in various ways and aspects. With a strong education, we can also manage our own life without depending on others. This is crucial for women so that we women would not depend on our husband fully on their financials, food, and a lot more for the rest of our life during marriage. There are a lot of importance in education, but I will only explain a few, which is the most highlighted ones, which is to gain respect from the society. This has becoming the norms. Most of the people respect an individual based on their education level, his or her education level. To lead a happy and prosperous life, one needs to study and obtain a great job in life. From getting an adequate amount of knowledge, a person can use the education to help on gaining reputation by being in a great position in their work. For example, CEO, being a boss in a company. It can help a person to grow in a career and fulfill their dream. Second is to get a stable life and avoid from getting financial problem on the future. This is also one of the most important reasons why education is important for each and every individual, since the elders often tell and remind their child that in order to live a stable and fortunate life, you must perfectly educated and has a knowledge in order to obtain a good job and good amount of money.
Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nofarha binti Muhammadiyah. Okay, so also education can save us from being false or cheated, since we live in a country that enjoys a number of rights and freedom. It is easier to take advantages of innocent and illiterate people. They may be tricked into signing false documents or be deprived of some right which they have, because unlike an educated person, they are not well aware of their right and freedom. So I pass to Nini to explain about. Thank you.
Alright, speaking of education, as we can see, there are a few countries and also certain people that does not have the facilities and the freedom to education. Even on this day, the problem has not been fully settled on certain country. However, equality or equity of knowledge is also important and needs to be highlighted. This includes every races, religion, ages, and also country. Educational equality is the study and achievement of fairness, justice, and impartiality in education. The term equity means accommodating and meeting the specific needs of specific individuals. This means ensuring that everyone's learning needs are met. Education equity is based on the principles of fairness in distributing resources, opportunities, treatment, and success for every individual. Equality means treating every student the same. Equity means making sure every student has the support they need to be successful. Equity in education requires putting systems in place to ensure that every child has an equal chance for success that requires understanding the unique challenges and barriers faced by individual or by population of students and providing additional supports to help them overcome those barriers and also giving all children an equitable start would lead to better economic and social outcomes for our nation.
Okay, so moving on the next topic. Okay, since we have gone through all the importance and the positive effects of education, we already know how one individual can not only make or change their life into the better or into bad, but also the people around her or him, also the country. So here I will explain about what happened if there is a lack of education. So what will happen if we are lack of education? Okay, so there will be a problem on our health care, which leads to the society to have poor health. Since we know that poor health and hygiene is a serious issue in societies where large amounts of the population is lack of education. One of the important basic health that is taught at school include pregnancy and prenatal care. Basic hygiene like cleaning teeth, wash hands, and also sexual health. Okay. Also, there will be lack of voice. People who are undereducated do not have the skill or confidence to speak up for themselves. For example, many women remain oppressed into the developing world because girls are educated or married young. Okay, often still has the children and forced into domestic chores rather than education. This woman find it very hard. These women find it very hard to speak up about their own situation and find ways to improve their life. They can't find job or rely on their husband incomes and often can read or write, which prevents them from self-educating. So, in addition, unemployment will also occur a lot in the country. Employment is like a cause carry all people in our society. Employment issue always associated with education. Credentials are one major way in which employers choose between job application. If you don't have that high school diploma or university degree, chance or you will drop to the bottom of the pile. So next I need to explain more about employment. Thank you.
Also, the higher levels of education increase the chance an unemployed person will emerge with a comparable wage and reduce the time required to find new employment. The education level of a person is very important to a person to get a job. Higher education is easier to get a job, but lower the education, harder to get a job. We can see in our daily life that our major education is very important to our life and future. Because of that, we should improve our human resources so they can compete with other countries' human resources. Next, there will be an exploitation going on. People who have not been educated may have to resort to terrible types of work just to survive. In a world limited jobs, those with an education get first picking of the safer and more secure works. Girls in third world who lack of education are some of the most vulnerable. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, these girls are likely to find themselves doing jobs like prostitution, sweat shop labor and domestic labor, and also being married off as child bride. These are the things that we should prohibit since it affects on individuals' mental health that can lead them to do more unexpectable things. And lastly, a break on economic growth. Countries that have more educated population will have more sustainable economic growth over the long term than those with a less educated population. This is particularly evident now that we live in a globalized world. Nations are competing against each other for economic dominance. If a nation is more educated, the nation's productivity is higher and its workers are more innovative. The nation attracts higher paying jobs in growth industries. By contrast, nations that are poorer have to attract lower paying industries such as manufacturing and others.
To conclude, education is definitely an important thing for each and every individual in the society since it affects in so many aspects such as life, happiness, mental, work, and a lot more. Education is not only for the ones who obtained it, but it is also for the people surrounding. And the most important thing is for the society and the country to grow together. It leads us to the right path and gives us chance to have a wonderful life. Education makes people capable of doing interesting things that can go a long way to improve human living conditions and standards. Our whole life is also the process of learning and gaining new, useful knowledge. We as a society, we as a human being always remember that getting a good education is imperative in today's society and it is the foundation of our successful future. Our education is really worth investment. Only if you believe and work hard, you can achieve something. Thank you. That is all from us.
Everyone agrees that education is hugely important. The thing is, we're not particularly sure what we want from it. The aim of education should be to prepare us for the challenges of adult life. Yet from this perspective, it's clear that schools fail all but a tiny portion of their students. Whether in highly academic private schools or in deprived government-run ones, trouble dealing with life's challenges remains very widespread indeed. Human ingenuity, energy, goodwill and talent is being lost on an industrial scale. To get more ambitious about education doesn't necessarily mean spending more money, building more schools, employing more teachers or making exams more difficult. Rather, it should mean focusing more on the real purpose of education. There are two fundamental tasks it should help us with: working and sustaining good relationships. In order to address these needs, a future national curriculum might specify that the following subjects be studied. Firstly, capitalism. A conspiracy of silence exists around the economic system we live within. We find it hard to change its bad sides or defend its strengths because we simply don't fully understand how it works. a subject like maths should be geared to teaching its number one utility for 99% of the population, dealing with money. Such classes would demystify the global economy by teaching students the importance of the means of production and how profits are made. The role of cash flow, HR, leadership, marketing and competition would also be studied. In the perfect school system, you'd also then study a really big second subject, yourself. Young students would be introduced to the idea that we humans are extremely prone to misunderstanding ourselves. They would be taken through the concepts of delusion, defensiveness, projection and denial in everyday life. Individual tutors would be on hand to help students draw personality maps with particular attention paid to their neuroses and fears. Doing this would ensure that students learn a lot about how complex they truly are and what types of people they would be best suited to hang out with. A crucial unit would be devoted to career self-knowledge. What job are you best suited to? Students would spend 3 hours a week exploring what they might do with their futures. Then one would study relationships. Being intensely aware of the social and individual cost of every unhappy relationship, an ideal education system would emphasize the acquisition of skills that help people to live better together. There would be units on kindness and forgiveness, as well as on anxiety reduction techniques. In this educational utopia, it wouldn't only be children who would go to school, but adults as well. Schooling would be for life. Education wouldn't just be taking place in classrooms. Media and the arts would be made to maximize their teaching potential and help to teach people what they actually need to learn. We're so hung up on the challenges of running a massive education system, we're failing to pinpoint the real source of its problems. These aren't primarily about money, salaries, or discipline. These are really only a consequence of a more fundamental problem. Right now, and with no one quite meaning for this to happen, we've simply got the wrong curriculum.